Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jesse's Tea House. I'm Jesse, here with my guest today, John Schmidt.
Hi, everybody.
John is a musician, an artist, an audio engineer, and we actually met many, many years ago when we studied together in China, in Beijing. So in 2010, we were both in Beijing together learning Chinese. Then both of our lives took a twist. I stayed in China doing Chinese comedy. You came back to Hollywood and joined the music industry. Yeah. So basically the idea of this show, for those of you who are new, is we drink tea, we talk, we share some interesting stuff, and just the types of friends of mine that I would just normally be having over for tea. Now we're doing that over here on the show. So you excited? Pumped. Awesome. So first tea, we're going to start out with one of these. This is the new Snow Jasmine that we have. This is one of the ones that's going to be in the subscription box. In fact, it is in the subscription box. And give that a smell. Yeah.
Good? It smells amazing.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Have you had jasmine tea before? I'm sure you must have somewhere, right?
Probably. I don't know if I've had snow jasmine.
Snow jasmine. Yeah. This is the. It's called snow jasmine because it's got that little white, sort of the white hairs on the leaf shows that we have some good quality tea here. A lot of the jasmine tea in the States is actually it's sprayed with jasmine oil, which smells good when it's dry. But then you then lose all the flavor because the oil washes off and you don't actually have any jasmine flavor. And for our stuff, this stuff is what they do is they take the green tea and then they lay jasmine flowers on top of it. And in nighttime, the flowers start to aromatize. They send out the scent that leaks into the tea. And then we do that 4 times. So scented 4 times, 4 batches of flowers on the same tea. And so the result is you get like a much deeper jasmine flavor. So excited for that.
It's amazing.
It'll be fun. So give everybody a little bit of a introduction, sort of. Who are you? How did you find your way to LA? And what sort of stuff do you do?
Yeah, so I went to normal college first.
Normal college.
And then I went to music school at Berklee College of Music after that.
Nice.
I wanted to get into music, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I started at Berklee. Then I worked really hard. I got a job at what was then Serenity East, which was Sanctum Sound, which was like one of the bigger studios in Boston. And then one summer I just had a fantastic stroke of luck. And then Justin Bieber came into the studio one night.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so you were just like chilling in the studio and Justin Bieber walks in, or how did this happen?
So I had finished like a full day of work. I'd been in the studio for like 10 hours or like with this like opera singer. It was like not fun. And then, and I remember like at the end of the day, I was like pretty over it. And I was leaving, and then I got a call from the studio owner, and he was like, "Please go back to the studio."
Yeah.
And I was
you're like, is it more opera?
No. Yeah. I was like, I just don't want to go back. And he was like, "Please go back." And I was like, "Why?" And he wouldn't tell me. And so I went begrudgingly went back. Yeah. And so I'm just like sitting in the control room. Then I hear like thud, 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 like these knocks at the door. I go to the door. I open the door, and this dude with a silver briefcase just walks right past me. And like,
it's like the nuclear football.
No,
like what's in this briefcase?
I had no idea who he was.
Was Justin in the briefcase? No, okay. No, so what happened? So the guy walks in.
So and like didn't say anything to me, and he was like, "Where's the control room?" And I was like, "Over there." Yeah. I was like, "Who is it? Can I curse? I can't curse." Yeah. I was like, "I don't know who this was," and so whoever he was, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so he just goes, and he tells me to get this other box. He's like setting stuff up already.
Yeah.
And he just gives me the silver briefcase, and he's like, "Go set this up." And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. So I went to the live room, I opened it, and it was this like wacky microphone. It had this like thing sticking out the side. And it was like, I'd set up like a good amount of microphones for it. I'd never seen anything like this.
Is this the Justin Bieber secret that makes him sound like that?
Well, that microphone was just like above my pay grade at that point. It was like a Sony C800G. I think they cost like $17,000 or something. Ooh. They're like pretty spicy. They're pretty good.
It's like a car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
The nicer mics are like that much.
So so this guy comes in with a secret special microphone and a special suitcase.
Yeah.
You set that up.
Yeah. I mean, it was like luckily I set it up right and it worked, thank God. So it turns out that guy was Josh Gudwin, who's like Justin Bieber's engineer. I didn't know that at the time. And then I'm sitting in the back in the control room, and I hear like thud, thud, thud.
Yeah.
go back, open the door. I'm like brushed aside by this guy who's like 7'8", and like literally just like moves me out of the way. And then there's like this parade of like 25 people, like one of which is like happy birthday, and I'm like thanks. And then at the end, it's like Justin Bieber is just like bobbing around, and it was like that's why it was insane. And it was like, you know, I'm just some kid at music school, and then it's just like.
So do you think that was like part of what made you want to get into the industry in general? You just see like, whoa, these people got fancy mics, they make a lot of cool music.
Well, I was already like dead set on doing what I was doing. I mean, that's why, and like I worked so hard, and that's like how I got the job at the studio. Like most Berklee engineering students never even get a job at a studio, you know what I mean? But I got one in like 2 years. Nice. Just because I was grinding so hard. But that was a cool night because that night they recorded a song called Recovery off of his album Journals. And he was playing a show at the Garden, I think, like either the next night or something. And they just recorded that song while they were in town. And the guy who said happy birthday to me is a guy named Jason Boyd, aka Pooh Bear, who's like one of the greatest living vocal producers like of all time.
That's cool. So you're just like, but that's the thing. It's like you stick in the industry, you work it out, and then one night, just like sort of like this stuff can happen if you're in the room at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just like, you know, what's that expression? Like, luck is when hard work meets opportunity, you know? And that was exactly true for me. You know, I worked really hard to put myself in that position, but also like how I have no control over whether Justin Bieber rolls in or not. You know,
that's true. So very, very cool. Let's try some of the scent of this. Smell the jasmine.
It smells amazing.
Oh, that does smell really good. So the jasmine tea, we actually have a black jasmine on the site, but this is the more traditional green jasmine. This first steep, now normally a lot of people who watch on channel, they're like, oh, I pour off the first steep, and I usually do, but for green teas, you don't get a ton of steeps, so we're just gonna give a little to the tea pets.
I want to pour tea on the tea pets.
Give him a little.
That's my favorite.
Like John's like, this is like what I knew about what I was coming here to do.
That's right.
Like give him a little.
My favorite part of the TikToks is feeding the tea pets.
Yeah, the tea pets they're definitely in there. So here we'll give this already start a refill, and we can enjoy this first steep right here. Ba-doop. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming over for tea, man.
Oh, thanks so much.
That's nice.
It's very good.
What do you think?
I think I have to stop coming over because whenever I have tea here, I never want to have the tea.
This is the problem of being a tea guy is like I can't have tea anywhere else anymore. Yeah. I just can't do it. I feel I don't want to be that guy, but like, you know, like literally there's over there behind the cameras in my living area, I have a suitcase I brought back from the Tea Mountains in June.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could go to the Four Seasons Hotel, you could go to the Ritz. I have better tea than anywhere in LA. And
for real?
Just like for like way better. Because just the Americans, they don't think about tea when they do this stuff, or if they do, they have to effectively find somebody like me to find it for them. But I don't need to find someone like me. I am me. So I get to do all the great tea stuff.
You're like the tea guy in your skit.
I'm
like
the tea guy.
The tea guy who like.
Oh, like my dude.
Yeah.
I have a shtick on this. We can cut to that maybe, but the. Basically, like you got to know a guy. You want good tea, you got to know a guy.
You can't just walk into a tea shop.
You can't just walk into a tea shop. You got to ask what they got. And what we got is the snow jasmine. So very good tea for a good conversation. So so the way I know this guy in music is that we studied abroad together, 2010 in Beijing, and at the time we were both studying Chinese. What made you like want to study Chinese and go to Beijing to study abroad?
Why not?
Why not? I like it. I like that answer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think at the time I was like playing with the idea of going into the foreign service. And I think if I didn't go into music, I think that's probably what I would have ended up doing. But also it's like I can just learn Chinese and go to China. Like sounds awesome.
Sounds fun.
Like everyone else who went to school with me went to like, you know, Spain or the UK or something. And it's like
study abroad in London. It's like, they speak English. You know, nothing against London. But I think it was a different type of person that went to China. Like it was kind of like, who the hell knows what'll happen?
No, yeah, it's like the wild East. You know, It's like, why not?
Yeah. And so when you were there studying Chinese, like what was it like doing that program? For those of you who don't know, we did these like intensive language programs. We had to study every day. We had like a bunch of characters we needed to learn. We were tested every day. It was like very intense language practice. Did you like that, or was it too much?
No, I loved it. I mean, it was a very different study abroad experience than a lot of people I had known who were just like, they were basically just like drank and traveled Europe. Like that's what it meant for them. And like we studied so hard.
Yeah.
You know?
We studied a lot.
But like when we were like speaking Chinese by the end of the program. I mean, you were already pretty good, but like
it was I think harder in some ways for people like you that came in with less practice, but also I was almost jealous of people like you in that sense, because I had a lot of bad habits kind of like build up over studying in college. And then like I got to China and I was saying the word war wrong.
Yeah.
I was saying war. I had the like me, like I.
like,
and nobody had corrected me.
Yeah.
Like for years in college, I would just be like, war, and they're no, make war. No, not make make war. I get that right. Do you feel like even now, like you don't use Chinese in your everyday life, but like what do you feel like studying in China and learning Chinese does for you kind of nowadays?
I mean, it was so fun. And it gave me an appreciation. I mean, it's a beautiful language, you know? And it was, I mean, it's still fun to like speak the little bit that I can with Chinese people, you know? And it's so ironic that a lot of Americans are like, oh, Chinese, you know, is so harsh sounding and whatever. Like, I'll never forget the first time that I arrived in an American airport after being in China for like 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And it's like, as soon as I heard people speaking English, it was like grating on my ears.
Yeah, you get so used to listening
like
to language.
Tonal, and like Chinese is beautiful. It's like very melodic. It's very tonal. I mean, in English, it just sounds like people like shouting at each other.
It's funny. It's like one of these things that like a lot of times, like the knock on people go to China, they're like, oh, they're all so loud. But it's like, well, I think part of that is just your brain is not hearing it as language. Your brain is just hearing it as noise, you know?
100%.
And so like once you do that, it's actually funny now because I speak Mandarin fluently. I hear Mandarin, it's just words.
Yeah.
But then somebody speaks in Cantonese, I'm like, what is that? I'm like, nothing against Cantonese. I'm not saying Cantonese is more beautiful, less beautiful, any sort of language. But it's like, I have that just like tectonic shift where I was like, oh, for most people, that's what Mandarin sounds like too.
Right.
Because they just haven't heard enough of it. And so like, it is a good point. It's like, you know, it's almost like a brain chemistry thing. Like even your own native language can sound like that after enough time away.
Oh, 100%.
That's interesting. Never thought about that. So you did, you came back, you did music, you studied at Berklee. Or I'll put it this way, how connected is the world of like, learning about music in school versus doing music in the industry in real life? Are they completely different? Did you feel prepared from school? What was good, what was bad?
It's an excellent question. I am a little bit skeptical of being prepared for like modern music. I think if you're going to a conservatory or something to become like a concert pianist at wherever, you know, that's probably very valuable. Or I think if you're like learning to become an excellent instrumentalist, I think that going to, you know, school like Berklee or Curtis or Juilliard, whatever, makes a ton of sense. In terms of like wanting to be prepared for making modern music, I mean, things change so fast, you know, and it's like the music industry changes like.
Is it like one of those things? It's like if you wanted to like seriously study how to do social media, like, well, by the time you're done with your degree,
right?
It's moved on so much that, you know.
100%. And half the time at Berklee, no shade to Berklee. Berklee was great. The amazing thing about Berklee was that it brought together, you would never find that group of people in another place. Like it brought together hundreds, thousands of people that were just like obsessed with music, driven.
It's almost like the value of the school is just attracting the people in the first place. And then that was one of the things I never went to film school. You know, we run all this stuff and I meet a lot of people that go to film school, and part of it is I'm jealous, not so much that I like don't know angles they don't know, but I'm just like, what would it have been like to be with people that just like my idea of having fun is like, let's shoot some videos. What was it like if everybody was like that?
Totally.
You know? And so that's something I never had. And I can imagine music school would be the same thing.
100%.
You know?
And it's super fun. And it's like, for a lot of people, I think not just me, but like, you're used to being the guy most obsessed with music in your environment.
Yeah.
And then to go to another place where there's other people as obsessed with music as you are is like
that must be fun.
a breath of fresh
Was
air.
it intimidating? Like, because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, I was the best wherever I was, and now like, ooh, this guy is on like, late night or whatever.
Yeah. I think if I were an instrumentalist, that would have been intimidating. And I was accepted as like a guitar player. It's like I'm like not good at guitar. And I remember there was this one lab that I took where it was like me and these 7 other guitarists. One of the guys is wearing like his like touring T-shirt, and the teacher was like making music theory jokes, and he was like, and then you add a flat 9 to a diminished 6, and like the entire class laughed, and I was just like, I have no idea.
String go twang.
Yeah.
Like string vibrate.
Yeah, I know, like, I'm like a blues guitarist who doesn't really know theory. I taught myself by ear, and like I can write songs, you know. But as like a songwriter, producer guy, like I think everyone was kind of learning at the same time. Like there were not that many people who were just like head and shoulders. But I mean, Charlie Puth was in my class, or like the class above me. He somehow got a head start. I don't know how he got a head start. I think he just started earlier than other people. So his productions always sounded pretty great. But by and large, everyone else was like learning. Yeah.
Did you so you were like in the school of Charlie Puth at the same time. Is it possible to tell like while you're in school who's going to be like the bomb and who is, never going to make it, or you really can't tell?
You could. There was like a cool kid mafia in like my class, and Charlie Puth was in there. Betty Who was in there. I don't know if y'all know Betty Who. Vincent, I don't know if he was on the 5 or whatever, and he had this like amazing performance. I think he should have won. But so there was kind of like cool kid mafia, and I had like tangential meetings with Cool Kid Mafia. I was not in the Cool Kid Mafia.
You were tangentially cool.
I was tangentially cool.
That's the right place to be.
Yeah, I guess.
Place to be.
But like, I don't know. It was...
Yeah. What would you say, like, for people that are like, because one of the things I like about comedy is that there really is no like thing you need to know before you can start doing it. Like ultimately you need to go up on stage and try to make people laugh.
Right.
Even kind of like with tea, it's like ultimately you have to drink the tea. Like you kind of just do this thing. You don't need to go to a tea sommelier class in order to be a tea person.
Right.
I certainly didn't. You don't need to go to a comedy class to learn how to do comedy, although you can.
Yeah.
Do you feel like with music it's really the same way? Like you can go to music school, but if you want to do music, there's really nothing stopping you? Or
No,
what do you think?
I think that's entirely right. There was some interview I watched with Ed Sheeran recently where he was like, he was on a talk show and he was like, I hear all these people saying that like ability is inherent whatever, and he was like, listen to this like recording of a song I made like 10 years ago or whatever. And this was Ed Sheeran, like the greatest songwriter ever, and the song was terrible. This is like really bad. And I know you just stink. Everyone stinks at the beginning, and that's life, I think so to answer your question, you, at least when it comes to like writing songs, you just have to try and actually with anything, production, whatever, you just need to try. Yeah. And you just need to continue. You just need to like it so much, or just you're so obsessed with it you can't help but try. And you just have. That's kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of like the cool thing about like music and all these creative arts in the time of the internet is like, I think before you had to move to Hollywood, you had to move to New York. There really wasn't like a real way you could do it otherwise. Music now, like you could make a song in your basement or whatever,
100%,
and then like it can be big, and like then you can be like up doing festivals, like
100%.
It's crazy. So like, do you think that like what do you think the value is of living in a place like Hollywood now? Because you live here in LA, you work in the industry here. Is this something like if you're new to music, like, oh, you could totally skip this, or is there still a lot of value to being here?
That's a good and hard question. To answer that question honestly, I'm not sure. I've heard the stories where someone makes a song in their bedroom. I think Grimes was like making music in her bedroom, like wherever Grimes grew up, and she blew up. She came out. So that definitely happens. I'm not going to say that there's no value to being out here, just because like LA is the music industry is just not a huge place. You know, and like A&Rs go to school night. You know, school night is at what is that place called? It's right by Capitol Records, Bardot, maybe. And like real A&Rs go to school night. So like you can get a gig at school night and like you will be seen by A&Rs. And it's a small community. So if you meet one person, two people, you know, then you'll go out to lunch with their friends, or, you know, I've met A&Rs when I'm out surfing, you know, or, you know, my ex-girlfriend worked at Capitol Records. And so I met the whole marketing team at Capitol Records. So it's like, I'm not going to say that there is no value to being out here, because you do meet people, and, you know, things can move so fast. It's like this person knows that person, your music gets in the right hands, and then something can happen.
Yeah. So like sort of like career-wise, it can be useful. Artistically, do you feel like people are better off, or like do you feel like you write better stuff when you're in the mix of all the Hollywood stuff, or when you get yourself away from that for a bit?
That's another.
You seem surprised. I'm asking good questions.
What's in the tea?
What's in the tea? Tea brings out good conversation, man.
Good question.
I like your genuine surprise that I'm like, you know, like this has been doing a lot of like shows for a long time, but like I kind of expected this would be a fucking mess. But yeah, okay, yeah. So what do you think? Because like for comedy, I kind of don't have a choice. Comedy, you need to have the audience there. For comedy, like I can only write so much in my room, and even sharing stuff online, which can be fun, you really don't know until you get in a room with real people. So I can't go to a cabin in the woods and write a special.
Right.
Like it just doesn't work. And the further you are from people, the less stuff you come up with.
Right.
But like one thing that always made me, I don't know if it's my romantic vision of a music artist.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that you could go to that cabin in the woods and get rid of society. Maybe that will make you better. Pack yourself around with people that inspire you, and then that's it. But I don't know if that's practically the way it actually works, or no.
It's a good question. I think everyone's different. I think that's the answer. You know, there are some people who they thrive co-writing, you know, and every song has 3 to 4 co-writers on it, and all the co-writers are different, and that's how they are creative, and they don't know how to be creative any other way. So if you put those people in the cabin by themselves, they'd be like, what am I doing here, you know? There are other people, and I'm certainly like this, where and this is kind of a Bon Iver thing. It's funny you say cabin in the woods, because this is kind of something he said. And he talked about writing music as kind of like a drilling, like an unearthing, you know, and it's like the more time he spends digging or like as he's trying to write a song, he's actually like learning more about himself. And, you know, once he gets to a certain limit, he's like, okay, this is the song. And I kind of operate the same way. So I think for me, once like a song has an identity, or I kind of know what I'm roughly like the box that the song lives in, closer to the finishing stages, it's helpful for me to have other people. And it's like, you know, the parameters of the box are defined, but what about this thing or this thing in the box? What's the best way to do that? I mean, but I think everyone kind of has to answer that question on their own.
Interesting. Because like one thing that I kind of get interested in is like whether the process of being an artist kind of at scale once you've made it, like it's a delicate thing. It's like a lot of times like you're funny because like you're really going through shit. You know? And then like, you know, if like you lived in a mansion, maybe you just wouldn't make any jokes. If somebody has a joke, it's like, you know, observational comics. Once they get rich, all their jokes are about driving cars. Because that's what they want to spend their time on. They're driving cars and they come up with car jokes. But like for music, because you work with a couple of the people you mentioned, Avril Lavigne, you made like, you know, projects with her, Flo Rida, also Jason Derulo. For these sorts of artists, like, do you find that like, do they work like regular people? Like, is the work process the same process that you'd be going through in your bedroom? Or is there something about once you're a star, once you're a mega hit, once there's a lot riding on it, you know, stuff changes?
Not all mega stars are created they're not all the same, you know, like there are people too. And, you know, a lot of the bigger artists, you know, they are, I don't think I'm like letting the cat out of the bag here, but like hold on to your seats. Like Britney Spears doesn't write all of her songs.
Yeah.
You know.
You heard it first here. You know, don't have the Britney fans on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, you know, but this is like a thing is like the artist that you know, so many people were involved in getting that person out under what appears to be their own name.
For
right?
a lot of the time, there is a class of professional songwriters in the music industry, you know, and it's like they are all writing songs all the time, and the artists a lot of times like aren't even involved. They're not involved in the songs, you know. They're pitched the songs, so there will be like an army of writers. Here's what will happen. Yeah. So word will get out on the street that Katy Perry is writing a new album. Then whoever contacts the songwriters, and then like a ton of songwriters will be writing songs competing for that album.
So they'll be like, we get her sound. I've listened to a lot of Katy Perry. I think she would like this. And then pitch, you know, 1, 2, 3. How many songs would they be pitching?
I mean, who knows? But like the final number that comes to A&R are probably like 100 more.
Wow.
And
so
then
they would record like a demo, like they would do their own demo, them singing themselves, and then you'd be like, imagine Katie singing this, it'd be even better.
Yep. And so that's like, if you ever hear songwriters talking about getting cuts, like getting a cut means that your song was selected among the trillion to like be on the record. It's like, you know, on a vinyl, the way that vinyls used to be made is there's literally a needle cut into the wax. So that's why like getting a song on a record is called getting a cut. So like for a lot of big pop acts, that's kind of how it works. And like the big pop singers will get a percentage of, you know, they'll be listed as a songwriter, but it's, and maybe they did, but maybe they didn't. Probably they didn't.
Does this like knowing how the pop industry works now, does this make you like enjoy working in this industry more, or does it make you enjoy working in the industry less? Now that you've kind of seen how the sausage gets made, kind of.
I mean, it's kind of affected the way I'm approaching it. So I'm starting my own artist project. I'm releasing my first EP in like a couple months.
Nice.
And so I think you kind of have two choices as like a creative producer guy. You can kind of choose to be in the machine, or you can do your best to be out of the machine. If you're in the machine, then you're subject to kind of the process I just told you about. It's like you are assigned to a music publisher, and then you guys are, all songwriters are kind of competing to get like songs on like pop stars records and whatever. Like you don't really have that much creative control over whatever happens, you know. If it's like, I don't want to make a song that sounds
you're a piece of a bigger project.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like an actor, like, you know, the actor didn't write the script.
Right.
Like their point is to be an actor. But like in music as well, like if you're an artist in that industry, your job is to do a specific part of the work.
Yeah.
But not the whole thing.
Right.
And the artist would be the opposite of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to make your own sound, and you basically bet on yourself, and you say, I think the sound that I make is going to be different and interesting enough to like add, you know, like splash a dollop of color on like the canvas that is the music industry, you know, like, and like specifically electronic music is great at that. Like when, you know, Skrillex came out, or Zed came out, or whoever came out, or Fred again came out, it was like they weren't in the machine, you know, like they thought, or there's that one guy, 2 foot, 2 inch, 2 something.
2 Chainz?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, but he has a super unique sound, which is really cool. 2 feet, I think.
2 feet.
And so like the gamble there is like my sound is unique enough to like just be entertaining, and then the relationship is between the artist and the fans, you know. And then if like labels or whoever want to, you know, play the vampire card and try and like leech off of your
well, this is what I found is like whether the industry creates better artists, I'm not sure, but I notice the industry is definitely able to monetize the art better than people by themselves, usually. That being said, with the internet now, things are changing. Like people are getting creative about this. But I want to talk about your EP in the second part of the episode, so we'll get back to that. But coming now with the time that we have left here, you know, what made you really want to do pop music specifically? Because like sometimes, you know, there are people that like, I mean, tons of people love listening to pop music, obviously. But a lot of times as artists, it almost seems like people would be like, I don't want to do pop. I do anything else but pop.
Right.
But then, you know, clearly a lot of people are still doing pop.
I mean, the reason everyone loves pop is because it's good. Yeah. And like, it's good from a craft perspective. Like the best pop writers, the best pop producers, they understand the craft of producing and songwriting better than pretty much anyone else.
So when you say better, what are the things that you see as somebody in the music industry? You look at one song, you're like, that was well done. You look at another song, you're like, that was poorly done.
Melody is probably the biggest in the first one. You can tell if attention was paid to a melody. You know, like if you hear the melody once or twice and it's just like you can sing it, you just sing it forever. You know,
that doesn't happen by accident.
It's impossible. Like and like try to do that yourself. It's impossible. It's so hard to just, and it seems easy, you know, and that's why everyone like hates on pop music. They're like, oh, it's so easy, whatever. But it's like, try it. It's not. And every element of a pop song, it's like the simplest things are always the most difficult. You know, if you try to do anything and make it simple, like and elegant, it's always the most challenging.
And that's the thing about comedy is like the difference between like a pro and somebody who like can pull off some jokes is like, can you take the same amount of funny and do it tighter?
Like Mitch Hedberg.
That was all dense. Everything was just right there.
Like one liner, 8 words, everyo's laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems easy because it's just 8 words, right? But
like, but like, you know, if like, you know, it's hard to think of like, you know, rice is great when you're hungry and you want to eat 2,000. Not a single word wasted in that entire joke. It's one sentence. It makes you think. It's funny. It's also true. It's also like rice. Who's making rice jokes? Like there's so much there. But as you're saying, like if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah. So like economy in that sense, like nothing is wasted, I think is a huge part of it. Like here's a really good example of that. If you listen to the riff in the beginning of I think Teenage Dream by Katy Perry, it's like bam, 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 whatever, and it's just like going back and forth. It's like super easy to play, right? But if you pay really close attention to that, the chord doesn't change on the 1. The chord changes on like the 2 or something, and it changes on weird beats every time. So the chords are like, it couldn't be easier, and anyone can play it. But it does. But it changes in weird places.
So that's tricky because it's like if it's going to be pop, it has to be like super easy to listen to. But at the same time, if you're literally just changing on one and you just do a regular chord progression, it sounds like every other thing everyone's always heard.
It just has to be interesting. Like your ear, a big part of pop music. And if you watch any interviews like with producers, they'll probably say something like this. It's just like you get bored real quickly, and something needs to change to keep the song interesting pretty quickly. And there's like a real art to that. And like the easiest, silliest way to do it is just to add a new thing all the time, every 4 bars or whatever.
But if you do that, then your song's a mess because it's like, because you added all these elements. It's like, you know, which elements make sense. It almost reminds me of an improv scene. In an improv scene, the first couple lines are really important because the beginning of the scene, everybody's like, hey, they picked this beginning to show us. It must be important. In reality, it's an improv scene. We didn't pick anything. Right. But if you bring back stuff that if in the beginning of the scene, I walk in out of the rain, even though we're not in the rain now, if you reference the fact it's raining, people are like, whoa, this world is really impressive. It's really real. Yeah. That's so much better than saying like, oh, I'm going to go in the sauna. The sauna is also new, but it like has nothing to do with the rest of the scene. You're just making shit up and you're piling it on, and then the whole thing collapses. As opposed to if it was raining outside, well, maybe you're in Noah's flood and you didn't know about it. But like that feels so much more interesting and real, just because you mentioned something before. Right. And imagine it'd be similar, like if you play with a theme in the beginning and you bring it back later, that's just going to feel so much better.
So yeah, that's perfectly put.
So very cool. Awesome. Well, we're going to continue to talk about more interesting stuff with music, including how you got to LA, which I've been told there's a hell of a story. Well, before we go, one last word on the Jasmine. What do you think?
It's fantastic.
This is good stuff. All right. We'll be back in a moment. I'm Jesse.
John.
All right. We'll be right back with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jesse's Tea House. Jesse here with my friend John Schmidt. John's a music producer. We're going to be talking more about making music and sort of this, what all that experience of working with some top artists here in Hollywood, what that means when it comes to making his music personally. I just am always fascinated as like a guy that makes stuff, how other creators make stuff. And I find a lot of times the techniques that are used in one industry, like that are kind of common practice, you bring that to another place, and you're like, oh, that really solved my problem. So I was like talking. But before we get into more music talk, we're going to be trying some of this. This is my tea guy Gudwin in Yunnan. In June, I went on a 6-day tour with him in this giant Lincoln van, going throughout the tea mountains, all up and down 5, 6, 7 hours a day, driving to these different tea mountains to drink the best teas. This is his 2010 Reserve cooked pu'er tea cake. And I'll open it up here for you.
Is this the stuff that...
This is the good stuff, man.
Is this what like rich people give to each other as gifts?
Yeah, so this is the sort of thing that like you'd gift a tea cake to somebody as a gift. The more expensive, the better. Part of the challenge is finding really good tea that also has not been, in Chinese they call it chao qi lai la, like, you know, like the price gets raised up, like almost like, you know, crypto style.
Yeah.
You know, like some of the tea can sell for unbelievable amounts of money. Drinking wise, is it that much better?
Right.
Who knows? But this is really good stuff. This is ancient tree tea that has been aged since 2010. It's a cooked pu'er, so it's going to be very dark and earthy and smooth. And just excited to be able to get this on the site. This is, the moment this hits the site, it will definitely be the best quality cooked pu'er that we have on there. Because this is the real deal, baby. 13 years age now. Oops, no.
Oops.
That's fine.
Ooh.
Yeah. So especially once we get that first steep out, you're going to see this. What's your, are you a tea guy? You ever had any like real teas other than, I guess, coming over to my place for tea?
I drink tea all the time.
Do you?
But it's like PG tips.
Oh yeah, you gotta get the good stuff.
I know.
We'll give you some. We'll give you some on your way out. The first steep of this. This is definitely one where I do wash the tea, and you'll see why, because the color difference is going to be pretty dramatic between this first steep and the rest. But first, enjoy that smell.
It smells really nice.
It's really good. I just love the pu'er smell. It's like some people it takes a little bit of adjustment to get to, but I just like it immediately out of there.
No, it's like what's the word? Very floral.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Smells like Yunnan. And so you can pick tea pet to pour on.
All of it?
Yeah, whichever you want. You can half and half, whatever you want to do, man. It's your thing.
I'm gonna give most of it to the Cobra.
There we go.
I don't drink any of this?
No.
But
I mean,
like
you can taste it if you want. It's not bad. It's just going to open up. It's going to get better. It's a little lighter than it will be. I mean, it's still really good.
It's already delicious.
The second steep here immediately, you'll see the color is just already incredibly dark compared to the first one. And it's weird because a lot of people are like, why wash the tea? Can't you just make it all together? You can, but part of the fun of the Chinese method is that by making smaller steeps, you kind of get to see the progression of the tea.
Yeah.
And it's more of like an experience going through the entire tea rather than drinking just like a giant cup. But, you know, that first steep, it was totally drinkable. But you'll see here the color difference already just a couple seconds into the
like
steeping.
Coffee.
Yeah, it's like really dark. And this is actually one of the teas I recommend for people that like coffee, because a lot of the people who are coffee drinkers are like, tea just tastes like water. And I'm like, doesn't taste like water.
Yeah.
That is for sure. So here we go. Dui's 2010 Reserve.
Cheers.
Show pu'er tea. Cheers. Pump.
It smells so good.
Give it a taste. Very dark, earthy, woodsy.
Oh, wow.
Is that good?
Yes. It tastes like the woods.
Oh,
smells so good.
I had somebody told me, they were like, this smells like a library, like an old library, sort of like. Also, people say it smells like a barn, which doesn't sound good, but it is good.
I've like never smelled this smell before.
Isn't that cool? That's the thing about this is like, so in China, what they call red tea, Westerners call black tea. And what Chinese call black tea is almost never sold in the States, and that's what this is. So this is in China, they call heicha. They call like, this is the black tea.
I just can't stop smelling it.
It's so good. Dude, I've been thinking like scented candles.
Seriously. It's like if scented candles tasted delicious.
Oh, so
that's
good.
what this is.
Well, we'll enjoy this tea as we talk about music stuff. So, so you're making an EP right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious from like the perspective of like the artist, like, how did you decide that you were going to make your own EP? What are the challenges, and how did you kind of fight through?
Yeah, totally. So I think a lot of it, when I first moved out here, I always wanted to make music. And I didn't know which side of the equation I wanted to be on. Did I want to be part of in the machine? Did I want to kind of do my own thing? First and foremost for me was like learning how to make music at a professional level. So I worked for a producer. When I first moved out here, I worked for a producer. That's when I worked with a lot of those fancy artists. And then after that, I worked for Hans Zimmer as like a composer.
Wow.
I wrote a ton of music for television for like more than 12 networks. And that was kind of a trial by fire. It was like they could ask you to do any genre of music and it had to be really good and you had to make it in like a day or less.
Wow. So they'll just be like, we want a tango song in the style of Frank Sinatra and, make sure to throw some like Japanese stuff in there.
100%.
and then you just have to come up with that.
So yeah, Hans Zimmer's TV music company is called Bleeding Fingers, and I don't know how much your audience cares about this, but for like traditional television, like all the music you hear on TV, the way most of that is found is there's every TV show has a music supervisor who chooses the music for a show. And most of the time they just have to go through like thousands of songs on these random websites to like find appropriate stuff. And that sucks for them.
Yeah.
And so the Hans Zimmer pitch is just tell us what you want and we have these amazing composers and they'll just make it.
Because your time is so valuable, like it's just like a wild goose hunt to try to find it already existing. Why not just pay for it to exist the way you want it to?
And so they pay more, but they get exactly what they want.
Yeah.
So that's what I did for kind of a long time. And that's really how I learned like the mechanics of being a music producer, like how to make things sound like the radio.
What does that entail? Like, for me, like I don't know really very much about music production other than like sound go up and down. Like, like what are the elements that like when you're like that song was well produced, what does it mean?
Economy, kind of like what we talked about before. If you listen to a song made by a new producer, it will sound, there's just a lot going on, and it's just, you can't, like, if you were going to ask someone what sounds are happening at any given time, it would be really hard to point out.
It's a mess.
It's just a lot going on. But if you listen to great songs, like Teenage Dream, like we talked about before, in the beginning, it's just, they can make, and like, you can kind of pick out what's happening at any given time really easily, but the way that things are happen in such a way that it's like super entertaining. And like there's just a million little things. It's like, how do I learn to be a great producer? And it's like, it's not like you need to learn these 3 things. It's like, you just keep making music forever. And it's like, you kind of learn like a few things every X period of time. And then like after a Y much bigger period of time, you've just learned like hundreds of little things.
It gets in your head. It's almost like if you were, like, I remember once I heard a thing to say, like, always keep reading books because everything that goes into your head, eventually it will be able to come back out. But if you never read it, you don't know it, and it can't be a part of coming out later.
Yeah.
So, like, in that sense, like, every song that you made kind of put, like, information into the bank.
100%.
How did you deal with that as, like, when you were younger, though, you moved to Hollywood, start doing the production, long hours, like, I'm guessing you weren't making a ton of money from it.
I was so poor.
Yeah, so, like, how did you, like, did you have a moment where you're like, I don't want to do this, I'm going to give up, or, like, it really wasn't a thing you thought about?
I had, like, hundreds of moments like that. But, like, this is, like, when people ask me, they're like, well, what advice do you give to younger people? Not that I'm, like, super famous that I'm in a position that I should be giving everyone advice. But like the thing that I always tell people is the most important thing is, and I think this is for any creative thing, is like your why is kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, I like that.
And your why had better be good, because it's not a question of if, but when and how many times will you have the moment that you talked about. Yeah. Like you're just gonna be like, this is super hard, I'm super poor, this sucks, why am I doing it?
You have to have a good answer for yourself.
Yeah, and the quality of that answer is really good. I think the difference between whether you'll succeed or not.
That was the thing that really kept me going doing the Chinese comedy, was because it was like there was this moment where, obviously I like making people laugh. It's fun to be on stage. Why do a job where I suffer than a job that I like?
Totally.
But beyond that, it was also like, and even continuing now, coming back with the tea and this stuff, like I like doing this cultural exchange. I would hate to live in a world where like the world order shuts down and everybody's fighting and we don't cross borders and we don't learn languages because of stupid, preventable cultural misunderstandings that like, evolved from the fact that we're all monkeys that are meant to be in a group of 100 people, and we are all dealing with global society with the wrong software inside the hardware.
Yeah.
And like the idea that like comedy, especially across the cultures, and to the same extent, is like you just don't see a lot crossing. Everybody does it their own way in their own language. And so the idea of going across that boundary, it felt like even on the days when the comedy wasn't working, the why was good. Like the why was valuable. And also like, especially you live in China, a lot of people do business or whatever, but for comedy or for culture, if you don't do it, then it may never happen. Because
Preach.
like, you know, if like somebody, if I was like a construction expert that built roads,
Yeah.
if I don't build the roads, somebody else can build the roads.
Totally.
For culture, if you don't make it, it may never exist.
Totally.
And so that also was my why in sort of being able to push through this sort of stuff. If I don't make this joke, no one else can make it. If I don't share this tea, literally, if I don't share this tea, if you guys don't know Dway Dway, if you don't know what's going on, you never get to try the tea. And it feels like that why comes out. What was your why that kept you going?
It's like, it's what I was put on earth to do, I think. Like, I think for some people, I was always like kind of good at a lot of stuff, but the only thing that I was just like naturally, I was always really good at music. I could learn songs by ear. I could, I was accepted to Berklee for more than one instrument.
You had the
I've always been good at it, and like I was told by people I was working for, like, damn, you're really good.
Keep it up.
So
that encouragement is a big help.
Oh yeah. The first boss that I had, we didn't end on great terms, but the last, in like a note that he gave me when I parted ways, he was like, if you spend enough time in front of a computer, you'll be like one of the best in the business.
And so it's like people that actually know what they're talking about, that can really go a long way.
Yeah. From a guy with like a lot of gold and platinum records, even if, we kind of ended on bad terms, that like to have that vote of confidence was super helpful.
Cool. So now you're making your own EP. What was the process of making it? Was there like a moment where you decided like I have to make this, or was it more of like why aren't I making my own music?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, once I decided I didn't want to be in the machine, then I kind of started looking down that road, and then but I mean, the way that I approach it is a lot different than other people. There's Christian Carlson. I don't know how many people know him, but he's one half of Bloodshine Avant, which is like a great production duo. He's a member of Mike Snow. Bloodshine Avant wrote like Toxic by Britney Spears and a million other huge pop songs. He's also one half of Galantis, the dance group. He's a writer I've always really admired. And there was like some interview with him, and this has come up in other interviews I've watched with other people, but they say, just like, you gotta do your own thing.
Yeah.
That's like, you have to kind of do the Bon Iver thing and dig deep and like find your sound. Like what when you make a piece of music, like, and it really feels like you, you. So
that's what you should be looking for.
That's what I did. I think there are a lot of other people that don't, they make, they're not as focused on sounding different.
It seems to me you would have to sound different though, just like practically, like you can't do what everybody else is doing. Like it just won't work for you. Like it's like I love Seinfeld. Yeah. I would love to be able to make like a new version, like an intercultural or a Chinese version of Seinfeld or something like that.
Yeah.
But Seinfeld already made Seinfeld.
Right.
I would have to make my own version of something. Because there's no point at which you just get so good at making Seinfeld that you just make Seinfeld again because it was a product of a certain time, a certain group of people. Yeah. You kind of have to make your own, even if you're trying to copy someone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it was really important. There are a lot of people that, they put out something, they don't think too much about it. They iterate. I didn't do that. For me, it was, it took me a really long time to kind of like find my sound, and like when I made music, what felt good to me and what was natural, like because I knew how to make a million genres of music after working for the Hans Zimmer people, but it was like almost like it was almost a handicap because it was like I can make kind of a ton of stuff, but like
you can make too much.
I can make a lot of stuff, but like what is the thing what do I want to make?
Because I feel like for me, I'm almost starting to get in my career, I kind of feel like in the first time where I really know this is true and not just feel it's true, but I really feel and know it's true. It's like comedy isn't expensive.
Yeah.
Tea is not expensive. I could really make any sort of comedy or tea or talk or whatever program that I want to within some sort of reasonable reason.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost more pressure to say, you should watch this because I like it. As opposed to you should watch this because it sounds like other stuff that I know that you like to watch. You know what I mean?
Kind of.
It's like, it feels like if I have the freedom to make those decisions and were to fail,
right,
then it would really suck.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was trying to do like the popular thing and it fails, then you can always be like, well, it's not really my style anyway. You can kind of like hide behind the ego. Whereas if you make your own stuff, you have to expose that ego. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, 100%. And that's another thing that's really scary about making your own music. Like there's one song on the EP that I went through this like apocalyptic breakup, and we were together for 6 years, ended on bad terms, whatever. And I wrote this song about it, and it was like, it kind of just like tumbled out, and it was like not. The two other songs on the EP did not tumble out at all, and they took a really long time to write. This one was like, blah, and there it was. And it's like, honestly, it's like super uncomfortable to put out. It's like, it's super raw.
You'd rather have spent tons of time dulling it in some ways.
100%. The other songs are like a little bit more, I don't know. This one is super raw. I'm kind of, the only reason I'm, like, it was such an authentic expression. Like, it was like genuinely an expression of like one of the strongest emotions I've ever had, that I feel like it would be an injustice, like to my own feelings to not, put it out.
Try to put it out.
Yeah. I have no idea, like what, I'm actually really curious to see, like, will people respond to it? Will everyone just be like, this is like super uncomfortable, or?
Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is a good chance to cut to some of that music.
Yeah.
If we choose to cut, we'll cut here. If not, we won't. But so you're making this stuff, and once you have the idea for a song, does it start from a technical perspective first, and then you write lyrics? Do you start with a emotion and then build out the sound? Like, what are the arrows? How does one lead to the other for you?
I start with the song always, and melody specifically. So yeah, that's always kind of the thing for me. Like, because once you have a song, then the production is really about just like, how do I make the song more of what it is? The other way, like just making a production for production's sake is like a little bit harder for me to understand. And it's always I've tried that before, and that works, I guess, if you like keep slamming it against the wall. But for me, it's like the best music, the best songs are songs, like, that sounds stupid, but like.
It does. I'm just, yeah. But like, what do you mean by that? The best songs are songs?
So like when I was first getting into electronic music, I would listen to like, okay, let's say Skrillex or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that music is like driven by like wacky sounds and stuff like that. But even if you listen to Skrillex, like best known songs, like you can play them on a piano. And they sound beautiful on a piano.
Really?
Oh yeah, without the whatever.
It's almost like, it reminds me almost of like how like T-Pain like started doing auto-tune, and then everybody was doing auto-tune.
Yeah.
And then I was surprised when I listened to T-Pain. I'm like, ooh, he can really sing.
He's an amazing singer.
He's really good.
No, he's an amazing vocalist.
Like, I listened to the T-Pain Tiny Desk concert, like on NPR, and I was like, they have T-Pain on? Like, isn't this the buy you a drink guy?
Yeah.
But like, no, he didn't just want to buy you a drink. Or take you home with me. He also really could sing.
No, he's like an amazing. He did a feature on, when I was working for that first producer guy. He did a feature on one of the songs, and like we put on the autotune. It was like, wow, he's incredible.
That's crazy. Would you say that people who get to the top in Hollywood, are they really good at what they do, or are they kind of just like they signed to the right contract, they got brought up in the right thing, they're willing to do the types of things that make money? Or are they just like, nah, these people are like rocket ships and like they figure it out?
All of the above. I think, everyone has their own path. There are people that are there on merit, Well, I think everyone has luck, I think there are people who are like some of the best in the world. No one ever has any idea who they are. I think there are some people who have a lot of talent. They get a little bit of luck. They end up where they are. I think there are people with less talent, but like they know how to like schmooze a room, and they know how to network, whatever. I like to think, and I hope I'm not being naive in this, but I think it's not so much about how you get there it's about staying there. I think anyone can get there however they get there, but I think the way that you stay there is by being really, really good at what you do, like not like backstabbing people and stuff. I think the people that stick around are really talented, pretty good people, you know, that aren't doing all these terrible things behind people's backs.
Yeah, because that's true. Like it's weird. The skill you need to make it in the first place is very different from the skill you need to stay there.
I think so.
Right? Because like there's something like for comedy especially, it's like sometimes you can have these like, you know, a couple really good bits.
Yeah.
And the way comedy works, you might work for years and years and years to get 5 minutes on a late night show.
Yeah.
But then when you get it, you're hitting them with 10 years worth of your best stuff.
100%.
And then one of the problems with the Chinese comedy scene is that people are getting their shot in front of the big audience after doing comedy for a year. And so they don't have anything else. They, like, forget more material. They don't really even necessarily know how they made that first bit of material.
Exactly the same with music.
It's same with music. So like, so you see these people come up and they burn out, and like I kind of look at that. I'm like, oh, pop, you're up, you're down. But like a lot of it could be, it's just like no, like there's no rush. Do you feel like there's a rush to get there? Because like if you rush to get there, you may not be able to hold on to it.
I mean, I've taken the polar opposite approach. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, let's say that. But like, I've never really felt that rush. I mean, for me, it was, I really wanted to know what I was doing, you know, like before I started making my own music, or it was really important to me that I felt like, you know, I could go into a room and go head to head with whomever, you know? So I mean, I took my time. I think there is a lot of pressure in music to, you know, be young and whatever, but like, I don't know. That just wasn't my...
It's not, even though obviously like young people are oftentimes more attuned to like what's hip now, like there's nothing inherent in music or comedy for that matter that you have to be young to do it well. In fact, like a lot of times in comedy, like part of the challenges for young comedians is like, you do great in college because you do lots of college jokes to other college students. And then you get out in the real world and you're like, oh, my college jokes don't really work when it's not just college kids.
Totally.
And then like, what do I talk about? But you don't have anything to talk about because you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
It's almost like the same with writers, like people who do like creative writing masters directly out of college. You haven't lived.
Yeah.
You know, you can write about being a writer or wanting to be a writer, but like, you know, this is one of the things where I like, you know, for like unintentionally, one of the best things I could have done as an artist was like live abroad.
Totally.
Like, you know, just like having a chance to be out in another culture, making a life in a new place, and like kind of having to redo a lot of stuff. It sounds like a lot of effort, but it was fun at the time. And then coming back, it's like, you know, and you also interact with different experiences. So it leads me more to be able to deal with that sort of Hollywood machine, having been in the Beijing and the Chinese internet and the entertainment world. And then I come back here and I'm like, actually a lot of stuff that's like really like, that sounds like really intimidating for other people. Like it's just better here.
Totally.
Like, you know, the agent system here is hard,
Yeah.
but like at least your agent can't literally blackmail you out of the country because they hold a license and the only reason you're allowed to perform is because your agent has a license.
Right.
Like, oh, I don't have to deal with that here, which
Yeah.
is nice. So do you feel like, going back to your own stuff, how would you feel like your experience of working with all those big artists then comes into making your own music?
I've just kind of seen how big records are made, I think. And I just kind of have a sense for, I don't know, I've seen how they do it. I've had a lot of experience, you know, making different I've just spent a lot of time making music, you know? And so now it's like I took the long route and I was like, I really, really want to know how to make this stuff. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer, or a lot longer, I guess. But now I feel like pretty good. It was also kind of always important for me to, when I put out music, I just want to feel really proud of it. And I never felt like I knew enough stuff that I would be proud of the music. But now I feel like I'm in a position where I can really make the music I want to make.
That's good.
From
like a technical perspective, like the skill is there.
And all of the above, you know, even the creative process. Like when I was first starting to make music, I wasn't focused on the melody. I was focused on fancy sound effects and stuff like that. And then I was like, this music sounds cool, but it's soulless and like it doesn't connect. So I had to make that mistake first. And then now it's like, okay, I understand from a creative perspective, melody is like the most important thing to me. I understand, I just kind of know my own values.
Yeah. Because without knowing that, you'd be lost.
Or you would go through that kind of thing you were talking about, where maybe you have something that comes out and has success, but then it's like, what do you do for your next album? Yeah, you don't know why. You don't understand who you are, and so it's like, what do I do next?
So then we're going to be starting to wrap up, but we're going to ask a couple lightning response things. Maybe I'll follow up on them, maybe not. But the idea is going to be, I'll ask a question, try to give me a 1 or 2 sentence answer, and then maybe we'll go on about it, but maybe we won't. So the first question, what would you say is the single most important piece of software for making good music right now? Like if you could only have one piece of software for making music, what would you recommend people to download?
Ableton, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. You just need to choose something and get really good at it.
Okay, so that sounds good. What would you say, as a music producer, what's one thing that you hear it on the radio and you're like, I wish they would stop doing that?
Like a song?
Or just like a song, a trend, anything, like a sound?
Trap hats.
Trap hats.
Like in every hip hop song, it's like tick, 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 like the... I'm like, I get it. I'm over it. It's like I've been beaten over the head with it for like I don't know how many years at this point, but I'm so over it.
So, what's a trend in pop music now that you're really into and you think is great?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like authenticity is having a moment right now. And I feel like that's not, people are just being super real and like raw with their emotions. Mm-hmm. That is, compare that to like pop music of the 2010s, like the Katy Perry's or Britney Spears. That was not the case. And now you have like the Olivia Rodrigos of the world and whomever being like, just kind of saying it like it is and how they feel and they're hurting. And I think that's like great and like mentally healthy for the world to hear.
Very good. Question, if you could only listen to one song off your EP, which one would it be?
Oh my Lord. Can't Breathe.
Can't Breathe. And why? What about that song makes it be like, oh, you got to listen to this?
It feels good.
Feels good.
This
is from the man who said songs are songs. This is true. This is good. I like it. Continuing on. So you learned, you studied abroad in learning Chinese, and then later you did music stuff that had nothing to do with Chinese.
Yeah.
What was valuable to you about that time learning Chinese?
Oh, man. You're really good at this.
I just love how surprised you are. That I'm trying to, I don't know. Should I have prepared this stuff?
I feel like I should have prepared.
No.
Chinese is a beautiful language. I think the overarching question is you can really learn to appreciate something that you have no understanding of. There can be something you just don't understand at all, and then you engage with it and spend time with it, and it goes from the scary thing that you don't understand to like one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen.
Wow, that's I like that. I like that answer, especially the musical nature of the language. Do you feel like being a music person helped you learn Chinese?
Yes. Because I think a lot of people view tonality as a handicap, and it makes them more difficult. For me, I think it was it assisted me.
Yeah,
it was like easier to remember words, and like if sentences they could sound wrong, and that would kind of give me cues.
You the cue that you said it wrong. That's the biggest problem. Is a lot of people, they study Chinese, they hit this point in the beginning, they know they're wrong, and then in the middle you hit this point where you're like, no, I think I said it right, but you didn't. And the teacher's like, no, you didn't. But like they're like, oh, no, you guys suck. Or like, you're too picky, or no one actually hears the difference between those things. And that's like death to learning Chinese, because you are wrong. You are definitely wrong at that point in your stage, in your journey. And like, but a lot of people, their ear just hasn't caught up. So one of the things Master Ding told me was, especially for being a comedian in China, it's almost more important to have a good ear than a good mouth, which sounds crazy because you're speaking, it's comedy, right? But he was totally right. It's like, if you can't hear the subtle difference between this and this, you're screwed as a comedian. Even if you said it right once, you would never know how to replicate it.
Right.
And so like, if you don't have the language at that level, you're not going to make it. I'm guessing same with music. If you can't tell the difference between the melody you're hearing that you like and the melody you're hearing that you don't, with only the small changes, maybe it's hard to make it. I don't know if that's going too far.
I mean, this is like the one thing I would say about, I think a lot of music can be learned and improved upon. I do think there are some people that can hear melody, and there are some people that have a hard time hearing melody. And there are some people that know when a melody like just clicks and like just fits right in like this pocket. Like I can't describe it, but some people can hear that and some people can't. And not everyone needs to be a melody person, but if you are a melody person, you better be able to identify when a melody is in that pocket.
As a music producer, when do you know the song is done?
Everyone else likes to say they don't know, but I do. And it's just like when it's like not, I want to curse. It's not when it's not screwed up anymore, I guess. Like when you can listen front to back and you're just like, this isn't screwed up, and then you can, usually for me, I'll take like a week or whatever. It's super important to get some distance, because especially when you're working on something for such a long time, it's like the microscope is all the way in. And, there are just things that even if you take 2 weeks off, you won't notice it either, but because you're so zoomed in. So then you can actually like start undoing some things that are like actually fine the way that they are. And so I'll get it to a place where I think it's pretty good, and then I'll take a long break, and then I'll listen to it again. And then if it's still
good, then you're like, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Another question. So what's something that you wish you knew about being a music producer before you started learning all this stuff?
Technical skill and learning how to be a technically good producer and learning how to be creative are two entirely different things.
So explain, why are they different?
They just are. So I didn't know that. And so I spent so many years learning how to be technically good. And then I figured once I was technically good, I would immediately know how to be creatively good. It just wasn't at all true. I had all these technical skills, and then I was trying to write my own music, and I just didn't know what I was doing really. And it took learning your own creative process is what I mean. That's its own beast. And after I had a huge toolbox of technical skills, I had to learn how I was creative. Melody is really important to me. I want to start with the song first. Here are my values.
Like that stuff you had to find out.
Yeah.
It didn't just come up. It just didn't just happen.
No, it's not like you learn how to use a camera and then you're a great photographer. And it seems obvious, but I just I don't know. No one told me.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then last couple other sort of lightning round questions. What was Justin Bieber like in the studio?
Super nice. Pretty standoffish. I think he said two words to me. He was like, "Can you bring the mic?" But he was like, "Hey, bring the mic closer to the drum kit."
That's way more than 2 words.
Okay, sorry. Said a full sentence to me.
Okay.
But nice. They were super focused, which was really inspiring for me to see. Nice, pretty nice fella. He was
cool.
Focused, chill.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have any other last questions. What advice would you give to somebody who's interested in starting a career in music or music production or pop?
Ooh, have a good why.
Just got to have that why.
Got to have a why. Why? It's going to be really hard. Maybe there are some people it's not difficult for, but I think for a lot of people it is. Yeah. And so I would be armed with an excellent why before you get started. That's
a good one. Last question. What do you think of this tea? Is it
good? That's the best tea I've ever had.
Really? The best tea you've ever had? Cheers to that.
That's a pretty low bar.
No, that's good.
It's so
good. This is the Doi Doi's 2010 Reserve Chaud Pu'er.
And it's definitely the best. It's one of the best smells.
It's so good.
Ever.
I wish some of this to take
I wish there was a candle.
This stuff is really, really good. We have it in the full cakes as on display over here. And also we paid the team in China to break them up into 50-gram bags. You don't need to buy a full cake. You can get a small bag. 50 grams will do 7 to 10 sessions. And as you saw here, we're drinking 1 session of tea, 2 people, as much as we want. For those of you who are new to the show and don't know, all of the stuff that you see tea-wise on the show, from the tea tables to the tea pets and all of this sort of stuff, the teas, the kettle, this is all available on the site, jessieteahouse.com. If you want to support the show and become more of a tea person, the way to do it is to get stuff from the site. We have a subscription box, which includes this 2010 aged pu'er. And all that stuff is just trying to make it really easy for people to get into tea, because it's one of the cultural stuff. You know, if you don't know what the table is and how to use all this stuff, a lot of people just never do it. And so making it easy, having stuff like 2-day shipping to be able to make it easy for people to do this so they don't have to wait for tea cakes to come from China. That's what we're about.
How many tea pets do you have?
Oh, God. I mean, you can see over there on the windowsill over there, we have a whole bunch over there. I don't know if we can get that or if it's blown out. There are some secret tea pets on there, secret tea pets that... there are secret tea pets on that windowsill that we can't show you yet. We should blur those out because they're coming soon. But yeah, I got a lot of tea pets. I more than I need, and I also have tea pets that lived in China with me and were in storage for years, and I just recently brought back.
I'm really excited about the tea pets.
It'll be good. And so that leads me to my last question, which is, if you had a little tiger, what would you name him?
Oh gosh. I mean Tigger, but that's cheating.
Tigger, whatever you want, man. There's no cheating. Tigger?
I'd probably name him Tigger.
So there you are. There's Tigger. You can keep him. Take him home. I'll give you some of this as well if you'd like to try some. And just great to have John on the show. Again, thank you all for watching. Hope you had a good time. If you like the show, you have any questions, you want to hear more about John's music, where can they find it?
It's coming out in like 4 months, 3 months. Jesse's going to teach me how to get good at TikTok in the next 3 months. So hopefully you see it on TikTok. It'll be on Spotify. You know, it'll be everywhere. Right. But hopefully you'll get like little snippets on TikTok.
Nice, awesome. And then thank you again for coming, and for all of you guys. If you like the show, leave comments. Let us know what we can do better and make this even more fun. If you're watching on the video, we have the full version, full hour plus on the audio podcast. And if you're watching on the long media, on the longer edited version, we also have a shorts channel. So thank you again for coming. Have a good one. It's good to see you around. Enjoy your tea pet. 再见了. 再见. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.